Our hero is a weak young man who goes back in time to save the world after his death from the emergence of destructive monsters from a mysterious game that is destroying humanity. He possesses a supernatural skill that enables him to connect with the power of an army of monsters at his command, so he is inevitably determined to use his strength and knowledge of the future ahead of him. Our story begins today in the Dark World, specifically in the town of Black Sands, where we see a group of ghost wolves chasing a group of hunters. The team leader tells them they need to hold out a little longer until they reach the rocky oak forest, explaining that this is their only hope for survival, because the ghost wolves won't be able to climb the trees after them. But suddenly, something unexpected happens. One of the girls stumbles and falls on her face, and one of the wolves was about to catch up to her and finish her off. But at that moment, a hunter appears who looks like a beginner from his outfit, but he takes out that wolf in the blink of an eye. The girl can't believe that the one who saved her is a level 1 hunter. After that, the hunter pulls his sword from the beast's corpse and swings it with incredible speed, killing all the wolves and cutting them to pieces. The adventurer team is shocked, and the leader keeps wondering how this hunter managed to kill the ghost wolves with such a beginner's sword. But suddenly, a large number of ghost wolves appear, drawn by the scent of blood from the killed wolves. The hunter team gets nervous and asks the leader what they should do, so she tells them they obviously need to run quickly because this wolf pack is enough to wipe out a tribe of beginner hunters. But our hero smiles at this moment, and we learn his name is Lin, and he uses his basic skill called summoning skill, then summons skeleton warriors. As soon as he summons them, they appear strong, and we learn from the system screen that they're level 3. Lin then commands the skeletons to attack the wolves, and a fierce battle begins between them. Lin also pounces on the wolves and starts killing them, and after 15 minutes the battle ends with Lin's victory and the destruction of all the monsters. At this moment, the system screen appears showing him that he succeeded in the mission and killed 16 ghost wolves, so he gets 160 experience points, plus the resources he'll get from the monster corpses. Meanwhile, we see the hunters watching in shock at what's happening, and how a beginner was able to wipe out this wolf pack alone. The team's mana user goes to him and asks if he's a mana user, and how he was able to use these summoning skills, telling him she's also a mana user but has never seen the skills he has. He calmly replies, "Who said I'm a mana user in the first place?" She's surprised and asks, "Then what are you?" He tells her he's just an ordinary adventurer but possesses a forbidden skill of SSS rank. We then learn that exactly 3 years ago, scientists detected a large celestial body near Earth called the Demon Star. This star appeared next to the Blue Star, which is our hero's home. 3 months after the Demon Star's appearance, another world appeared and was called the Dark World. Over time, everyone started entering this world that contained elements and weapons that gave humans supernatural abilities. But at that time, it was still just an ordinary world. Until one day a group of people appeared who could possess this world's skills in the real world, and they were called the Chosen Ones. But then another group of people appeared, claiming to be followers of the demon ruler, and these people were evil and committed many massacres against humanity. Our hero Lin lost his father and mother at the beginning of this group's appearance, who later caused what became known as the Great Catastrophe. After a while, all the chosen heroes in the world were gathered to face the catastrophe, but unfortunately, they were defeated and retreated before the demon ruler's followers. Lin was also injured in this battle and was on the verge of death, but he unexpectedly went back in time. This time was different because the system gave him a forbidden skill of SSS rank called Dark Summoning Art. Back to the present, Lin was telling himself that this time he needs to be stronger and level up, so he can protect his family and the Blue Star from the coming catastrophe. Lin uses the summoning skill on the ghost wolf corpses and succeeds in creating moving ghost corpse, which becomes a level 3 monster. Then he uses another skill called Underworld Gate, and as soon as he uses it, the ground cracks beneath him and a giant gate emerges. Lin uses it to store his soldiers, and the higher Lin's level gets, the more monsters he can keep. Of course, all of this was happening in front of the hunter team, and their leader is amazed that Lin can animate corpses, but Lin wasn't focused on her because there was something more important. At this time, a message from the system appears in the sky, telling adventurers to pay attention because the area boss will appear, called Giant Death Wolf. Suddenly, the sky turns terrifying and everyone starts to fear, but Lin, unlike everyone else, is very excited to fight the giant wolf. We then see all the beginner adventurers in this world, terrified by what's happening. One of them explains to the other hunters that the wolf's attack power will exceed a 50-meter range and asks them to flee as far as possible. Then, the wolf descends and kills a group of adventurers in the blink of an eye. One hunter's brother dies from the wolf's attack, so he gets very angry and decides to face and attack the wolf, but his friends hold him back, saying, "You're crazy. You can't defeat the giant death wolf alone." The other hunters were watching the wolf from afar, which looked terrifying. At this moment, Lin appears in front of the giant wolf to fight it. All the hunters are amazed by his behavior and say he must be crazy. When they see his sword, they conclude he's just a beginner and that's why stupidity has taken over him, thinking he can defeat a monster like this. We understand that in the dark world, monsters are classified from weakest to strongest. The 6 strongest ranks are Elite rank, then Boss rank, then Lord rank, then King rank, Overlord rank, and finally the highest and strongest rank, which is Tyrant rank. The giant wolf is of Lord rank. At this time, the hunters were calling out to Lin, telling him he's crazy and needs to come back quickly because fighting a monster like this is suicide. But Lin doesn't care about their words and tells the wolf, "I thought you'd be stronger than this." At this moment, the wolf attacks Lin with its roar. Lin dodges the attack quickly at the last moment, then the wolf attacks him with Death Claw skill. Lin keeps running from it at high speed and dodging all its attacks. The adventurers are amazed by Lin's movement speed, and the giant wolf gets very angry at him. At this time, Lin uses the summoning skill and opens the underworld gate from which his group of wolves emerges. All the hunters are shocked because it's the first time they've seen this skill. Lin and his ghost wolves attack the giant wolf. Lin's plan was to have the wolves attack the monster while he waits for the right moment to pounce on it. And indeed, he gets the chance, so he attacks the wolf quickly and succeeds in inflicting serious injuries on it. Here, the wolf's anger increases toward Lin and it attacks him, but Lin tries to distract it again and has all the wolves attack it. The plan works smoothly as Lin planned, and Lin and the wolves attack the monster at the same time. The hunters keep watching in shock at his power against the Lord rank boss. At this time, we notice there's a group of thieves hiding among the adventurers, waiting for the last moment. When the giant wolf is about to die, and its health points reach only 10, they attack Lin to kill him and gain the points for defeating the wolf and the rewards. But the other hunters warn Lin. Lin notices them at the last moment and manages to kill them with one swing of his sword. At this time, the wolf is already dying, so Lin strikes it the final blow with his sword and kills it completely. He gains about 480 experience points at this moment, plus the pure soul gem he gets from the wolf. Lin is curious about the reward the system will give him for killing the first boss monster in this world. He finds it's a pure energy gem, and this gem allows him to go to the Dark Council to exchange it for equipment, but only after collecting a certain number of them. We understand that players after level 60 can go to the Dark Council, which is where the elf tribes live, but since Lin is still at the beginning, this gem is useless right now. Lin then goes to see the other equipment he gained, and he gets Black Lizard Robe, which is considered cloth armor. Plus, he gets the title Monster Hunter for being the first person to kill a boss. Lin is very happy because titles in this world give players different skills. Then he sees the silver box he also earned, and when he opens it he gets Silver Moon Blade, along with Death Eye Ring, a healing potion, and a level 1 skill scroll. This completes Lin's experience points calculation, and they rise from level 3 to level 4. Then he looks at the ranking list in the desert and finds he's first. But he remembers, he sacrificed all his ghost wolves to kill the giant wolf. But at the same time, his prison space increased, and he became able to accommodate about 40 monsters. Then he uses the summoning skill on the giant wolf to add it to his army, and he's amazed by the power of his new wolf. Then he checks his skills and finds he's gained a new skill called Summoning Rage. At this time, Lin plans to gather a large team of monsters using his wolf, then opens the underworld gate and puts the monsters in it. The hunters are shocked by what they're seeing, that Lin managed to make a boss monster his follower, and they say Lin is much more terrifying than monster bosses. At this time Lin looks at them, so they quickly hide behind rocks. Then Lin checks the area around him and discovers that the 3 thieves who attacked him earlier had useful equipment like the Black Iron Sword, which is a good weapon for low-level players. But since Lin has the Silver Moon Blade, this sword is definitely useless to him. So he takes the sword and approaches the other hunters hiding behind rocks, and they get terrified, thinking he's coming to attack them to take their equipment. Lin goes to one of them and says, "Weren't you the one who shouted earlier and warned me about the thieves?" The hunter gets nervous and doesn't know how to respond, so Lin gives him the Black Iron Sword and thanks him for the help, then leaves him and walks away. The hunters are amazed by Lin's reaction and that he gave a hunter such an expensive sword, which he could have sold for thousands of coins. We return to Lin in the real world, and he says he needs to save good money so he can buy a new gaming pod to enter the Dark World. He explains to us that the Dark World was originally just a game, and this was of course before portals opened from it to the real world. This world is divided into regions that differ from country to country, and each region has different kingdoms that players can choose from. He starts explaining to us a region like the Batu region he's in now, which has 4 kingdoms: the Desert Kingdom, where he was, the returning South Empire, the Dark North Empire, and finally, the Tidal Archipelago. We learn from Lin that when he went back in time, the system let him choose a place from these to land in, and at that time, he chose the same choice as his past life, which is the Desert Kingdom, because before he went back in time, he discovered a secret. The scene shifts to the past, specifically Lin's last battle, and we see a group of people with wings who are controlling the monsters attacking the town. Lin notices that these people have the Desert Kingdom Guild emblem on their clothes, and these are the first followers of the Demon Star. We return to the present, and Lin is thinking about these people and saying that the first follower of the Demon Star is the central character who will be used to summon the evil ruler to descend upon the Blue Star. Lin calculates and says there are at least 3 more years before the evil ruler descends. That's why if Lin can eliminate the first follower now, he'll be able to prevent the coming catastrophe. The only thing he can use to distinguish and identify this person is through the golden emblem on their clothing, and this emblem is only worn by people in the main city of the Desert Kingdom. And for anyone to enter the main city, they must be at least level 10. So he says he needs to reach level 10 quickly so he can go search for the traitor inside the city. At this time, Lin thinks to himself and then summons the skeleton card in the real world, because as we said, some hunters in the dark world can bring out the powers they acquired, and these are called the Chosen Ones. But after a while in the real world, they'll be called by another name, which is the Awakened, and that's because each of them possesses a hidden and very powerful profession, and thus they'll be the main fighting force that will battle the evil ruler in the future. We know that Lin in his past life couldn't obtain his abilities from the game in the real world except during the catastrophe, but this time he got them very early, and that's because summoning ability is from a very high category. After a while, Lin's room door gets knocked on, so he goes out to sit with his father and mother, and while Lin is eating with them, he asks them if his little sister will come home today. His mother tells him that his sister is preparing for the mock exam soon, and that's why she took her food with her to school because she'll be studying there. At this time, the father feels something strange about Lin and is worried about him. Days pass, and Lin continues training, and he says that if he wants to better control the power he gained from the game, he needs to have a strong physical build to be able to handle these abilities. And we see him running every day, and when he calculates his speed, he finds that he ran 50 meters in 5.5 seconds. So he says that's good, but he can improve more. And after that, he decides that finally the time has come to return to the dark world. Indeed, Lin enters the Desert Kingdom again, and suddenly he finds a level 2 whaling bird attacking him. Lin finishes it off in seconds with one swing, but he only gains 15 experience points from it. After that, Lin summons the bird's corpse and uses it as bait to lure the ghost wolves, and indeed his plan succeeds and he lures a large number of them. Lin then prepares to fight them, and he uses a beast essence potion and attacks the monsters at maximum speed, and continues cutting them with his sword until he finishes off about 40 wolves. And at this moment, the system congratulates him on rising to level 5. Lin summons the corpses of the 40 wolves and adds them to his legion. Lin continues walking, and after a while reaches Black Sand Town and starts wandering around the town until he reaches an old house. And as soon as he enters, there's an old man asking Lin, "Who are you?" We learn that this man's name is Kansi, and he's the hunter's instructor in Black Sand Town. Lin replies that he came because he wants to learn some skills from him. And we learn that in the dark world, skills are acquired from skill books that drop from monsters, and also from treasure chests that drop from monsters, but there are certain skills that have an instructor responsible for teaching them to beginners. And this Kansi was Lin's instructor back when he was a beginner hunter in his previous life. Kansi then replies to Lin and tells him he agrees to teach him, and says he'll benefit from teaching him because he'll finally be able to buy a large amount of food that will last him for half a month. Lin takes out the money and tells him he wants to learn flame skills in addition to healing arts and also stealth arts. Kansi replies and tells him, "As long as you have the money, everything is easy." Lin actually gives him the money, and at this moment, Kansi uses his skills and provides Lin with the 3 skills he requested. After Lin takes the skills, he thinks to himself that these skills aren't enough at all, and that they're simple skills, and that's why he needs to learn higher skills than these. But the problem is he also needs to find many resources, and that's why he sets off on a new mission in the town located east of Black Mountain. Lin keeps exploring the area until he finds the kobold mine. We learn that kobold monsters are level 5 monsters, and they live in nearby burrows and caves. Plus, they have the ability to find enemies in darkness because they possess a sharp sense of smell. That's why they're very cunning and love surprise attacks. Plus, the numbers of one group of them are very large to the point where they can reach 100 individuals. Before Lin enters the mine, he uses a night vision potion and also brings out his wolves to help him in combat. And he says that by exploiting this cellar, he'll be able to raise his skills to the maximum level. And after 15 minutes of advancing in the cave, Lin finally senses movement in a place, and suddenly, a large number of kobolds appear and attack Lin's wolves. Lin launches with his wolf team as well, and orders them to kill all the monsters, and he's able to eliminate a number of them with complete ease. He says the combat power of these monsters isn't great, but the whole idea is avoiding their shovels. And at this moment, there's a large number of monsters attacking Lin, so he quickly uses the stealth skill, and then he circles behind them one after another and cuts them to pieces. At this moment, Lin's stealth art experience increases, but he's annoyed because the level of these kobolds isn't high at all, and that's why his experience points increase by a small percentage. But then he benefits from them anyway. He adds their corpses to his legion and then uses them to help him advance inside the mine. He wants to find the leader of this mine to finish the mission. And indeed, he continues advancing until he reaches a crossroads. But suddenly, he feels something strange in the place, and an elite level kobold monster appears whose name is Kobold Watcher, and it's a level 6 monster. The monster attacks Lin with its whip, but Lin catches the whip with his bare hands with complete ease. And then Lin grabs the monster and eliminates it completely. And while the monster is still thinking about getting up, it's surprised by Lin circling behind it and cutting it with his sword in the blink of an eye. At this moment, a very large number of monsters that were being led by elite monsters from the supervisors appear. They activate the Bloodthirst skill on the rest of the monsters, and this skill increases attack speed by 40%. And when Lin counts the monsters attacking him, he finds their number is more than 50 monsters. He's forced to bring out all the monsters he has, including the giant wolf, and a battle begins between the wolves and the monsters. The giant wolf uses the Howl skill, so it afflicts all the kobolds in the place with severe weakness. After that, Lin orders the rest of the wolves to eliminate all the kobolds, and indeed, they keep finishing off the monsters until Lin's level rises to level 6. After that, he extracts their corpses through the summoning skill and adds them to his legion, but he notices 2 of the kobolds trying to escape. Lin quickly chases them and eliminates them with his sword. But suddenly, Lin gets attacked with great fire power, so Lin quickly dodges the attack. And at this time, the system sends him a message that the Kobold Chief activated the Crushing Strike skill. We then see the Kobold Chief who appears extremely angry, and we learn he's level 7, and he attacks Lin quickly. Lin prepares to face him and tells him he's been waiting for him for a long time. Then the chief attacks Lin with the hammer he has, but Lin dodges it at the last moment, and from the hammer's force, it gets stuck in the wall as soon as it hits it. The monster can't get the hammer out of the wall. Lin takes advantage of the opportunity and decides to eliminate him, but as soon as he hits him he's surprised that the attack doesn't even scratch him. So Lin was saying he expected this. At this time the chief gets enraged and attacks Lin with all his strength, but Lin quickly dodges the attack and retreats backward. Lin thinks that the chief's attack is 2 to 3 times stronger than the elite monster's attack, so he says, "I always need to keep distance between me and the chief." At this moment, Lin summons all the kobold monsters and wolves to attack the chief. And indeed, they gang up on him and the plan succeeds in subduing him. Then, Lin uses the flame skill and attacks the chief with all his strength. And since the kobold chief's fire resistance is weak, he's severely affected by the attack. The chief gets more angry at Lin and attacks him with all his strength. So Lin activates the stealth skill and quickly circles behind him, and Lin finally finds the unarmored area in the chief and hits him there. He jumps on the giant wolf's back and orders all his monsters to attack the chief. He continues, making the monsters attack him intensively, while he also strikes from afar with flame fire and succeeds in inflicting a major injury on the chief. But the worst happens, and the chief summons all the kobold monsters present in the mine. Lin tells him, "This struggle of yours has no use whatsoever." And Lin's monsters continue fighting the kobolds and manage to eliminate them. The chief tries to escape from the place quickly at this moment, but Lin suddenly appears in front of him, then attacks him with his sword and cuts off his head. Then a message from the system appears to Lin at this moment, telling him he succeeded in eliminating the kobold chief, and gives him a reward of 50 experience points, and also brings him to level 7. So Lin is very happy about his level rising again, because this way he gets one step closer to reaching level 10 so he can enter the main city of the Desert Kingdom. Plus, the stealth skill and flame spirit were developed to level 2, and their effect in this case is double. And then the treasure chest appears from the chief's corpse, which is a bronze treasure chest. As soon as Lin opens it, several resources appear inside: the never-extinguishing torch, the kobold leather pouch, and also the skull mask, shadow gloves, and about 20 gold coins. We learn at this moment from Lin that soon currency exchange will happen in banks between the virtual world and the real world, and since 20 gold pieces equal 200 yuan, this is something excellent. Then Lin looks at all the items he acquired, but nothing attracts him except the shadow gloves that give him physical strength equal to the kobold chief's strength. Lin puts them on immediately and is very excited to try them. At the same time, near the kobold mine, we see the leader of the Blood Guild, whose name is Huang. and he's a level 8 warrior, with his brother, Feihu, who is his deputy, and he's a level 5 warrior. They were training at this time and very happy about killing a complete wolf pack, which consisted of about 30 wolves, and they keep boasting about this strength in front of their team members. The team members say, "Now, if we meet Thunder team members, we'll definitely crush them." And one of them says that, "The idiot Lin, if he hadn't appeared in front of us and killed the giant wolf, we would have been the ones who killed it by now and no guild would have been able to boast in front of us." They remember the scene of Lin killing the giant wolf, and Feihu says, "I don't understand exactly what kind of luck Lin had at that moment, but if I see him now, I'll crush him without hesitation." Binda calls out to Huang and tells him, "I don't want you to act recklessly." He says, "I heard from someone that he was heading to the kobold mine, so we're going to check out the mine and then clean it out." He asks the rest of the team to stay ready, and he actually walks away and leaves them. But Veo is still in a state of rage. He's yelling and saying he's going to make Lin pay for what he did. "I'll kill him in front of my big brother so he knows how strong I am." So the rest of the team calms him down. They tell him there's something much better right now, and they point to a huntress passing through the area near them. After a while, the scene shifts to Lin after he finished off the monsters in the mine. Lin says he's developed a lot and his legion now has monsters of commander rank, and the number of legion members has reached 70 monsters. At this time, Lin hears the voice of a huntress and Vio's group trying to assault her. The girl is very scared and tells them if they take one more step closer, she'll have to attack them. Vio laughs and mocks her words, then quickly attacks her and kicks her staff with his leg, saying, "Show me how you're going to attack me now." But at this moment, Lin intervenes and punches him hard, sending him flying into the wall behind him by several meters. And when he hits the wall from the force of the punch, he passes out. One of the team members runs at this moment to quickly inform the guild leader of what happened, and the rest of the guild members are nervous about Lin. One of them says to him, "Who are you and how dare you anger the Blood Guild?" Lin looks at their emblem and realizes they're actually the Blood Guild. We learn that this guild held the first rank in the beginner village in Black Sand City, and all the members of this group will be famous in the future, and the whole group will become a band of criminals. Lin asks them if they're really the Dirty Blood Guild. He says to himself that this guild caused him a lot of problems in his previous life. One of the guild members responds that they are indeed Blood Guild members, but they're not dirty like he says. He continues and tells him, "Since you've now angered the vice leader, you need to prepare to bear our wrath." They tell Lin, "If you want us to forgive you, cut off your arm right now and kneel on the ground." But before they finish their words, Lin attacks them and cuts off the arms of the two who were talking. The girl stands shocked by Lin's strength. At the same time, Vio starts to regain consciousness and drinks a health potion that restores 20% of his strength. He gets up afterward with all his anger and wants to finish off Lin. At the same time, the guild leader arrives. One of the guild members tells him this is the boy who dared to hurt the vice leader and also wanted to kill him. The leader is very angry and draws his axe. But when he looks into Lin's eyes, he notices how strong he island. At this time, the guild members are angry and bragging about their leader's strength, thinking he'll finish off Lin. But the guild leader is actually very nervous about Lin's aura strength and says to himself that these fools have gotten the guild into big trouble. But unfortunately, today's battle is unavoidable. At this moment, Vio attacks Lin from behind, and the girl warns Lin about him, but the leader also attacks him from the front. Lin is surrounded from everywhere, and the leader tells him that the idea of being their enemy is the worst thing he'll regret his whole life. But at this moment, Lin calmly summons the kobold chief. The chief hits Vio with his hammer and sends him flying completely. The leader is shocked, but doesn't get to finish his shock because Lin also attacks him and tells him, "Your turn." The leader remains shocked in place, so Lin cuts him with his sword and finishes him off completely. Lin says this guild isn't even qualified to be taken seriously, but unfortunately, the system gives him negative points because he killed a human player, and a red mark is placed on him. We learn that this mark is placed on criminals, but Lin is reassured because this red mark will disappear completely if he doesn't collect any more negative points for the whole week. We then see the rest of the guild members fleeing after their leader and vice leader died. The girl tells Lin they're running away. He replies that they're just insects, and there's no need to fear them. Then, Lin looks at the equipment that dropped from the two and finds it very useful. Even if he won't use it, he can sell it for a good price. After that, the girl thanks Lin for his help, and when she asks him his name, he replies, "You'll see my name in the rankings, in the top 10 on the server." The girl is shocked by his words and runs after him as he walks away, telling him she wants to come with him. After that, he continues his journey until he reaches the Wailing Desert, and a group of thunder scorpions appear to him, which are level 6 monsters. They suddenly attack Lin from underground, but Lin attacks them and cuts them to pieces in the blink of an eye. Then, the system informs Lin that he killed 60 thunder scorpions, and that he's been promoted to level 8. At this time goes back 2 days. We see Lin in a strange place, meeting an old man who welcomes him. and a message appears to Lin telling him he got a hidden quest from the chemist, Emer. We learn that this quest is about collecting 100 poison herb plants. Lin says that after a while, a special dungeon will open in the main city of the Desert Kingdom, and then everyone will head to collect healing potions and poison resistance potions. So the value of these potions will reach very high numbers, to the point where someone in Lin's previous life made a huge fortune because of these potions. Besides, if he agrees to this quest and succeeds, he'll gain the secret recipe for thunder poison resistance medicine. We return again to the present, and we learn that Lin came here mainly for the poison herbs. He finishes off all the scorpions he encounters, and we learn that these scorpions are the ones guarding the thunder poison herb. Lin continues collecting the herb through his new gathering skill that lets him collect the highest quality herbs. The moment Lin decides to go deeper into the area to collect herbs, there's a tremor in the ground, and at this moment the Scorpion Chief appears, who is a mutated scorpion of level 10. The scorpion suddenly attacks Lin, but Lin quickly dodges the attack and moves away. We learn that this monster is very dangerous, and that it's not normal for a monster like this to appear here, because it's supposed to appear on the other side of the city. Lin attacks the monster with enthusiasm, controlling him, and says this is his perfect opportunity to use the space cutting skill for the first time. Indeed, he attacks the monster with all his strength. But the monster's body is very hard and the strike doesn't have any effect on it. All it does is anger the scorpion, and it strikes a strong thunder strike toward Lin. But Lin resists more and tries to stick his sword into the scorpion's body. Suddenly, the scorpion launches a strong attack on Lin using its tail, but Lin saves himself at the last moment as he escapes. At this moment, Lin understands how strong this monster island. He opens the underworld gate and summons all his monsters and commands them to attack the scorpion. The battle continues, and the monsters attack the chief scorpion, but the damage is minimal. So Lin uses his flame skill and launches his burning fire at it. The scorpion is severely injured and also attacks with its pincer-like arms on Lin's legion. But Lin uses the kobold monster and ties up the scorpion with ropes, and the kobold chief attacks the scorpion using his hammer and hits it with a direct hit that doubles the damage. The scorpion gets angrier and enters rage mode, but Lin doesn't give it a chance and jumps in the sky and attacks it with shadow gauntlets. The strike is so strong that it penetrates the scorpion's skin and finishes it off completely. A message from the system appears, congratulating him on killing the chief scorpion, and he gets 560 experience points from it. Then, Lin summons the scorpion's corpse and adds it to his legion. At this moment, a large number of thunder scorpions appear in the place. Lin gets more excited and tells them, "You came at the right time." Then, he uses the chief scorpion's thunderstorm skill and succeeds in weakening all these scorpions. Lin takes advantage of the opportunity and attacks them with his sword and cuts them to pieces. After the battle ends, Lin's level rises 2 more levels and reaches level 10. And he also gets a lot of equipment from the monster corpses. But the most important of all the equipment that appeared to him is a golden class skill book. Lin looks at the book, which is very amazing, and the book's name is Dark Summoning. We learn that this book is specifically for the summoning class only. As soon as Lin opens the book, he gets the Dark Summoning skill. Lin tries to use the skill on the chief. This time he summons him again, but with 80% of his real strength. Lin is very happy at this time and says, "Now I'm ready to go to the main city." But he feels something strange happening around him in the real world, so he exits quickly. As soon as he comes out, he finds his mother next to him, telling him that his father got injured in his back, and asking him to come help him. Lin gets up immediately to go help his father, so we learn that he got injured while fixing the air conditioning. The father reassures them that it's just a minor injury, and that he just needs to sleep a little. We move to the next day and see Lin working out at the gym. An employee comes to him and asks if he'd like to make a premium membership with them for the whole year. He gives her his credit card and tells her he agrees. We learn that Lin, after selling the resources he had that he didn't need, now has a large amount with which he can completely renovate his house, and also make premium memberships for his whole family at the gym. The gym employee then looks at Lin's credit card and discovers it's a premium card, and that for someone to get this card they need to have at least 5 million yuan in their bank account. At this moment, he gets a phone call from his father, who also knows he now has a lot of money and asks him about its source, so he replies and tells them it's from the dark world. We move to a scene at Tian's school. Lin's sister, school has ended and students are preparing for summer vacation. Tian is standing at school and hears 2 girls talking about their brothers. One of them was saying how wonderful her brother is and how he cares for her. Sadness shows on Tian, and she says to herself that having an older brother is a nice thing. but her brother never cared about anything except video games. At that moment, a group of bullies appears harassing her and wanting to force her to come with them. Tian yells at them, which draws the attention of her school friends who ask her who these people are and what they want. One of the bullies is about to touch Tian's face, so she gets angry and hits his hand, telling him to stay away from her, and warns them that if they come near her again, she'll call the police. The bully leader gets angry and yells at her saying, "You don't deserve any respect," then pushes her and knocks her to the ground. But Lin appears at that moment and says angrily, "Who gave you permission to lay a hand on my sister?" The bully leader pulls his hand away from Lin and yells at him. Then all the bullies suddenly attack Lin, but Lin manages to defeat them easily, and even steps on the leader's face with his foot. Everyone is amazed by Lin, even his sister, Tian. As they're walking home, Tian asks him why he came for her today, thinking to herself that she's not used to anything from him except playing video games. So he replies, telling her that their father injured his back, and their mother is taking care of him, so that's why he came to pick her up. Tian worries about her father and asks if the situation is serious, so he reassures her it's just a minor injury. After a while, Tian's friends say goodbye to her. Lin notices that his sister's leg is hurting because of the bullies, so he sits on the ground and tells her to get on his back, but she's embarrassed and tells him she'll walk. But Lin pulls her by the arm and carries her on his back. After a while, they reach home, and the father and mother are surprised to see Lin entering while carrying his sister on his back. Then, Lin returns to his room and puts on the helmet and goes back to the dark world, finally landing in the main area called Wind Sands, and sets off to search for the traitor who will be the main cause of the disaster that will befall humanity. We see one of the soldiers in the street arresting a criminal, and this soldier senses Lin's presence. Lin quickly hides because he has a red mark, which means he's a criminal and if anyone sees him they'll arrest him. He says he needs to hide in the city until the negative points disappear from him, and discovers he has 3 days left. He decides to use this opportunity to go visit his old friend. Lin goes to the church and enters during certain rituals. He tells the priest he came to help some poor people, and that he heard about Night Doug's illness, so he came to help him. We learn that Lin in his past life forcibly took a golden class sword from Night Doug when he was at level 15. Then he enters to see Mr. Doug and talks to him, telling him he came specifically to remove the toxins that have taken over his body. Mr. Doug stands up and says, "How? You're only at level 10. Even the patrol soldiers in the street are higher level than you." And he's about to continue talking when he bleeds from his mouth, and his condition becomes very difficult. Lin replies, "The toxins have already taken over your body," and asks if he'll accept his treatment or not, telling him if he won't accept treatment, he'll probably die after a month. Doug replies that to get treated, he needs 1,000 grams of gillfish found in the muddy desert, and tells him, if you're not afraid for yourself, you can go try your luck to get this fish. At this moment, a new mission appears from the system for Lin. The system asks if he'll accept the mission, and the mission is to obtain 1,000 grams of gillfish. Lin agrees of course, and heads to the muddy desert. After a while, he arrives there and we see the savage fish in the mud lake, and their level is level 15. And of course these are elite monsters. We see at the same time a group of hunters in the area trying to catch just one fish, but they're afraid of its sharp teeth and try to avoid them as much as they can. But unfortunately, 2 of the hunters fall into the lake, and a group of savage fish surround them. These hunters keep calling for help, so the group leader tries to save them, but he also falls into a difficult situation and the fish is about to devour him. At this moment, Lin appears and pulls his sword back, and attacks the fish with flame and completely blows up its face. The hunters can't believe he succeeded. As he looks around, he finds Lin, who was attacking all the fish in the lake with flame skill, but suddenly, all the fish attack him at the same time. The adventurers worry about him and try to warn him. Lin moves very quickly between the fish and dodges their attacks, then quickly grabs his sword and attacks the fish with one powerful attack after they all gather in the same place, and manages to cut them to pieces. The warriors are shocked by what they're seeing and say how the 8 of them were about to die by one fish's hand, and he alone finished off 5 fish with one attack. The leader says he really has great power, but it's impossible for him to kill all these fish alone. At this moment, the lake fish activate the group attack skill, which is considered the most dangerous skill these fish use. As soon as the group leader sees this, he gets very worried and tense. All the fish suddenly attack Lin and Lin can't see anything, but he's standing on a big rock in the middle of the lake. He summons the giant wolf and makes it activate the terrifying howl skill. As soon as the skill activates, all the fish get dizzy and lose their balance. Then he puts on a mask and prepares to attack the fish, grabs the sword and attacks them and kills them by hitting them in their vital areas. After a while, Lin has killed almost all the fish. One of the remaining ones tries to escape. Lin grabs his sword and throws it at her and kills her too. The leader and his team are literally amazed by Lin's power, but it turns out there are still other fish coming at Lin from far away. Lin summons the scorpion leader and commands it to attack these fish with its thunder. Indeed, the thunder scorpion launches and destroys all the fish, approaching them with one attack. The hunters are shocked by the surprises they keep seeing from Lin. We learn afterwards that the fish used their last card and kept killing each other to become stronger, and suddenly, a giant fish appears. This fish attacks Lin and all the hunters are shocked because it's the first time they see a fish this size. Lin summons his ghost wolves and makes them attack the giant fish quickly. They succeed in pulling it out of the water and pinning it to the ground, but Lin is shocked because the wolves couldn't cause it any damage. He draws his sword at this moment and completely cuts off the fish's head. After cutting the fish, he opens its belly and collects some elements he'll use to treat Night Doug's poison. The hunters don't understand exactly what Lin is doing. After Lin collects all the elements he needs, he puts them in the fish's head, which acts like a big bag. Of course, he still needs the fish gills to treat Mr. Doug too. He makes the giant wolf carry the fish head and throw it in the middle of the lake. This attracts all the fish in the lake, and they all head toward these things to devour them. Then, Lin summons the kobolds, and tells them the time for work has finally come. At this moment, the kobolds cut the fish bodies, and extract the poison sacs from them. Then, Lin spreads the poison around them to make the fish stay about 5 meters away. The hunters are shocked by Lin, and at the same time, happy because all the fish schools have moved away. The battle is now over and Lin starts collecting the loot. He finally takes off his mask and says it was very useful, but unfortunately, it can only be used once. Then, Lin continues collecting gill oil and succeeds in gathering 1,000 grams, which will be enough to treat Night Doug, and besides that he acquires the flexible nose armor of the savage fish. But Lin thinks this item looks very embarrassing and looks like a clown's nose. But the hunter leader likes this item and wants to buy it from Lin. Lin is surprised and gives it to him as a gift and leaves. The leader insists on paying for it, but Lin refuses and tells him he doesn't need anything from him. Lin returns again to Night Doug and pours the oil on him to treat him. Indeed, as soon as he pours the oil, the poison's trace completely disappears from his body. Doug is amazed by what's happening and says to Lin, "I wasn't expecting anyone could collect this oil." So the mission succeeds and Lin is given the reward, which is the golden blade, or what some call the green blade. Lin is very happy because this is the first golden weapon he got in his past life. Lin explains how special this weapon is, and that it can also evolve. Then Doug thanks him for saving his life, and warns him about an evil person named Quincy. This person's only goal is to kill sorcerers who have unique skills, and Doug advises him if he meets him, it's better to never go near him. Lin is surprised when he learns that the person Doug is warning him about is teacher Quincy. Lin asks Doug and says, "Why are you saying this about my teacher?" Doug is surprised when he learns that Lin is Quincy's student, and then tells him that one day he was a knight in the Scorpion Knights squad, and used to report all reports directly to the king about secret missions. Among these missions was a very dangerous mission, so he learned a special skill, which is the Shadow Will skill. Lin doesn't understand what this skill is and what its relationship with Quincy Island. Doug explains to him that it's a unique skill of its kind. As soon as any black magic appears, this skill can detect it, and the closer they were, the more this skill can sense them. And they learn that Quincy is one of the black sorcerers. So Lin asks him if he can only recognize black sorcerers. Doug replies, telling him he can recognize many types of powers, and then says to Lin, "You possess the power of the coming Dark Lord." Lin is shocked by his words and says, "Dark Lord." Doug replies telling him that the Dark World has 5 lords, the Lord of Light, Nature, Tides, and Ghosts. But originally, there was a 6th lord, which was the Dark Lord, and he was the strongest among all the lords. And since he's very powerful, he did whatever he wanted, and of course started having followers, and granted all those close to him enormous power. Of course, so they'd be strong too, and carry out his orders. The people who followed the Dark Lord spread plagues and killed people, and also started controlling all the corpses of the dead. And this caused many disasters at that time. That's why all the lords stood against the Dark Lord. And not only did they burn everything belonging to him and also the documents that talked about him until everything related to him turned to ash. And they also learned that the black sorcerers were standing with the Dark Lord before, plus the summoner class became one of the forbidden classes. Doug continues his talk and says that the pain that afflicted him for 10 years because of the poison was originally because of black magic, and that he was waiting for death all this time until Lin appeared and saved him. At this time, he sits thinking to himself and tries to understand what's happening, and says that in his previous life, he was just an ordinary hunter and didn't hear about this legend, but he understands now why the necromancer class is a forbidden class. He says, it's very good that so far no one has been able to identify his class. Lin is worried about what to do now, because he's supposed to go to the main city as he planned. but before that he needs to find a way to hide his class first. Then he asks Doug if there's any way to make him not get discovered by anyone who has a skill like Doug's. So Doug tells him the only way is for Quincy to help you, but at the same time, you must be careful of him because he might kill him if he knows he's a crazy sorcerer and also killed his wife. Then, Lin returns again to the Desert of Awakening. We see the scene moments before as he's leaving Doug's place, and we know he's going to Quincy. Doug calls out to him anxiously and asks if he's going to fight Quincy. Lin responds calmly and tells him, "You said earlier that he has a skill similar to yours, and the only way my identity won't be exposed is if I kill him." At the same time, he was thinking about how to hide himself from anyone else who has a skill similar to Doug's. At this moment, we see several arrows coming at Lin. Lin quickly dodges the attacks, and when he looks behind him, he finds it's the mercenary guild that he had marked before. The leader and his brother tell Lin that they brought a large number of their squad this time. The leader says, "Show me how you'll defeat me now." And the younger brother arrogantly tells Lin that he'll cut off his head and throw it on the ground. We also learn that the stupid younger brother brought a live streaming camera in the form of an insect and is broadcasting everything happening to people in the real world on Earth, telling them, "Now you'll witness a public performance of cutting someone to pieces." People were watching the live stream on Earth and knew that this squad always hunts beginners because they've made several videos like this and before. People start sympathizing with Lin and say his luck is really terrible because he'll face the Blood Squad. Plus there are 30 of them and he's alone. Lin responds to them at this point and tells them they're just scum and he'll mark them again. The team leader gets angry and orders his entire squad to attack Lin. They actually attack him with their skills like magic and arrows. Plus, they also attack with axes and swords. At this moment, Lin draws his sword and points it at them, telling them he can kill them within 15 minutes at most. Lin summons his army at this moment and orders them to kill everyone present. Indeed, Lin's army emerges and attacks them and starts killing them. The leader calls to his squad to prepare the defense formation. The mages begin forming a very powerful magical attack that they hit the poisonous thunder scorpion monsters with, and the archers shoot their arrows at the other monsters. These attacks succeed, and they manage to hit all of Lin's monsters. At this point, the leader tells Lin that your army will turn into a pile of rotten meat in front of our attacks. The deputy continues the leader's words arrogantly and tells him, "You'll die today." Lin laughs at this moment and tells them, "Are you sure?" At this moment, a sand whirlwind appears from under the Blood Squad mages and swallows them, plus monsters that suddenly appear from underground and attack the squad members. The deputy is shocked by what's happening to their squad. Lin continues attacking them with flame spirit and kills more of them. At this moment, fear takes control of the Blood Squad members and they say that Lin turned out to be very strong and they need to escape quickly. But anger controls the deputy leader and he decides to continue fighting. Then he attacks Lin with his sword and says he must kill him himself. The moment he's flying and about to hit Lin with the sword, Lin looks at him calmly and prepares his attack, trying a new attack which is Legend of Skulls. We see a group of skulls approaching the deputy leader quickly. The deputy leader is terrified and doesn't understand what this is and tries to escape from it, but Lin catches up with him and manages to finish him off with one attack. At this moment, the Blood Squad leader was watching what was happening to his squad, and panic was showing on him. At this moment, Lin looks at the leader sharply. The leader gets terrified and keeps begging Lin not to kill him. Lin pulls his sword from one of the corpses after finishing everyone off with only the leader remaining, then throws the sword into the middle of the leader's head and finishes him off. At this moment, Lin notices the live streaming camera and attacks it with his flames and destroys it. At this time, we see in the real world a very important looking person with influence sitting among his servants, watching the comments people are writing about Lin and what he did today. We notice that this man doesn't like Lin and is planning something evil against him. We return again to the dark world in the Desert of Awakening and see Lin after he reached Quincy, who is sleeping in his house surrounded by many barrels of drinks. But as soon as Lin enters, Quincy opens his eye while drunk and tells him, "You came again?" He continues and tells him, "I'm lazy today and won't do anything and don't need money because I already bought enough drinks." Lin tells him, "I want to talk to you about something important," and asks him if he can identify his class. At this moment, Quincy gets very angry and throws the bottle in his hand, and it breaks on the ground. Lin stands in front of Quincy, and after Quincy got angry at him, Quincy tells him how many years have passed since the Soul Reaper. "How dare you come here again?" Quincy gets angry and uses his power and destroys the place. The barrels break, and Quincy thinks and says, "What speed is this?" After that, he finds Lin raising the sword in his face and tells him now we can talk calmly. Quincy asks him, "What exactly are you looking for?" A person enters and tells Lin, "Since you're determined to go, consider this information a way to return the favor." He tells him in the past when the Dark Lord began to grow, many worlds started drowning in despair. To achieve justice, a battle began between Soul Reaper Quincy and his wife. After a strong battle, the Soul Reaper died, and his wife was trying to save the severely wounded Quincy when she fell victim to the curse of the living dead. Dark power entered her soul, and she turned into a monster. The only solution to break the curse of death and save his wife was to destroy her corrupted soul. But since the battle, the wounded Quincy couldn't hold a sword. People thought Quincy would live his days, drinking to forget his sadness and drown in the depths of despair. But one day, he announced a mysterious mission. Any person who could save his wife could take his treasures that he collected. As for the Soul Reapers, they would be able to find a way to decode the dark perception cipher for the secret treasure he seized from the Soul Reaper's body. At first, Quincy planned to use war spoils as bait to save his wife and break the curse, and to make the Soul Reapers pay the price. But among 158 people who accepted the mission, none of them could complete it. We return to the present time, and Lin tells Quincy to tell him his goal. Quincy tells him, since you came to me on your own feet, I was complaining about someone's absence for a while, to entertain my wife in her game. A message appears to Lin, saying there's a mission from Quincy. Will you accept it? Lin agrees to accept the mission. Quincy tells him, who knows, maybe you'll succeed in the mission. And he thinks and says, and that's definitely when your corpse gets dragged back while still intact. We go to the north of Blackson town, and Lin is walking at night, using night vision, with the Scorpion and 2 wolves walking with him. Lin thinks and says the Morning Sanctuary is divided into 5 floors, and all the non-playable characters who died in Blackson town are buried here. Suddenly, a zombie attacks Lin, but the Scorpion manages to kill it. Lin thinks and says, in addition to this, zombie monsters, skeletons, and ghosts appear, and the number of zombies increases with more floors. The first floor contains zombies from level 1 to 3. The second floor contains skeleton monsters from level 4 to 6, and the third floor monsters are ghosts with levels ranging between 7 to 9. As for the fourth floor monsters, they're ghouls at level 10. A gate suddenly appears in front of Lin, so Lin tells them let's break through the first 4 floors at once. Lin reaches the 4th floor and says, I feel like I heard something. And suddenly, he sees in front of him a large group of red eyes. Suddenly, a ghoul comes out at him and uses the wall running skill. We learn that the ghouls are level 10 with 2000 health points, 400 attack, 40 defense, and have poison bite and wall running skills. There's a large number of ghouls, and Lin tells the Scorpion to attack. The Scorpion uses the ground tear skill, hitting the ground making it explode, destroying the area and sending the ghouls flying. The Scorpion attacks the remaining ghouls, striking them with its tail and sending them flying. Lin attacks the remaining ghouls, hitting them with his sword, and manages to kill a large number of ghouls. Lin reaches level 12 after finishing off a large number of ghouls. Lin thinks and says, what happened was faster than I expected. Unfortunately, dark summoning can only revive corpses and control them, but has no effect on wandering spirits. But Lin is surprised when he finds something behind him, and there's a beam coming at him. Lin deflects the beam with his sword, but the beam is stronger than Lin and sends him flying far away. However, Lin manages to stand up again, and sees in front of him a box hanging and bound with chains. Lin says, the whole area has changed, and this box contains the girl he's looking for. Suddenly, this girl says, I've waited for you so long, and destroys the box and comes out of it, saying, finally, there's something I can eat. Lin thinks and says, so this is the 5th floor. The girl attacks Lin, but Lin blocks the attack with his sword. The girl uses the Corpse Bloom skill, so Lin attacks her with his strength, and cuts off her arms. Lin thinks and says, this is poisonous liquid, and tells her, there's no point in what you're doing against me, and Lin attacks her with all his strength. Lin manages to cut off the monster's arms with his sword. The girl attacks him with her strength, but Lin manages to block her strike with his sword. The girl stands up again and uses her skill, becoming stronger, and attacks Lin, but he tries to block the attack. Lin thinks and says, this is a wide area effect skill. No, this is summoning. After that, the power goes to doors, and these doors make sounds. Lin looks at the doors when he hears the sound, and a skeletal arm comes out of the door. Lin thinks and says, they might be NPCs from Blackson town who are buried here. The skeleton breaks the door and comes out of it. Lin thinks and says, these are the original town residents, and all the challengers who failed Quincy's quest are all here, and says, you want to resurrect them all. There's a large number of them. I didn't expect the boss to be able to revive a large number of the dead. The wolves attack the skeletons, and Lin tells them, close the doors on them. Lin stops a group of wolves and lets the other wolves attack. The wolves close the doors so the skeletons can't come out. Lin thinks and says, I'll use the undead as cannon fodder to block the skeletons' attacks. The Scorpion attacks the doors and closes them. Lin tells them, apply Bloodlust State, and they use the skill and start attacking. Lin says Crystal Thunder Scorpion, and the wolves and scorpions attack the skeletons. The Scorpion uses its skill and sends one of the wolves at the boss, and the wolf uses its skill, Heavy Strike skill, and the wolf hits her with a powerful blow. The Scorpion hits the ground, sending the boss flying from the ground. The boss is surprised when she sees the ground being destroyed, but the boss gets up again. Lin thinks and says, wandering spirits belong to the ghost-type monster family. That's why they can pass through buildings and are immune to half of all physical attacks. But at the same time, when they're hit, they take double damage from magical attacks. Lin kills a large number of skulls, and says, I'll use Azure Soul, Curse, Seal to deal damage. The boss attacks quickly, so Lin thinks and says, her speed increased. The wolves stand in front of the doors, so the skeletons can't come out. Lin thinks and says, the NPC corpses could become zombie defense lines at any moment. This battle must end. I need to find a way to stop the boss's attacks. Lin uses his power and attacks the boss with all his strength, using the paralysis, poison skill. Lin attacks her with all his strength, destroying her, and a system message appears saying the target has been hit and poison has been activated. Lin says, it's not over yet, and Lin attacks her with skull power. The boss tries to block the power, but she flies far away and destroys the place, then falls to the ground. Then Lin thinks and says, after being hit once by the soul curse, seal once, her speed decreased. Then Lin says, Evil Wolf Howl, and a system message appears that Evil Wolf Howl has been activated. Then the boss is trapped inside a spell, so Lin tells the boss, even though the stun only lasts 5 seconds, it's enough. I want to see how much of my attacks you can withstand. Lin attacks her and hits her with many strikes. The boss tries to block these strikes, but she can't and becomes unable. The boss uses corpse explosion, skill, and suddenly an explosion happens in the place. The wolves die and get cut up. Lin stands and plants his sword in the ground, and thinks and says, this is the corpse explosion art. This monster wants to explode the NPC corpses directly to destroy the entire tomb room. My army only has 3 corpses left, and this is a big loss for me. Lin stands in front of the boss and tells her, the time has come for me to kill you. Lin attacks her with all his strength, and Lin hits her with skull power. A system message appears saying the boss has entered a near-death state, and another message appears saying that Lin managed to kill the boss and gained 800 experience points. Lin is standing and finds a spirit appeared behind him, thanking him, and this is the spirit of Quincy's wife. A system message appears telling Lin, you now have the ethereal love ring, an important item, and this is Quincy's engagement ring for his wife. Lin takes the ring, and Lin thinks and says, is the only reward for killing the boss, the ring. But suddenly, a strange power appears, so Lin is surprised and doesn't know what this island. Then he notices, it's a book, and written on it is Princess Lagertha. And Lin takes the book and thinks and says, I wasn't expecting that the corpse explosion art that you leaders use is a skill for soul reapers. And Lin learns from the system the learning requirements for the corpse explosion art. So Lin thinks and says this is because her seal was one of those close to the Dark Lord. And a message from the system appears telling Lin that the skill book is being recorded in the player's memory. And suddenly power appears on Lin. And like this, Lin reached level 1 of the corpse explosion art, and the effect explodes 1 corpse, and deals fire damage to nearby enemies. So Lin thinks and says even though this power consumes the corpse supply, the attack power effect is good. And we go after that to Black Sand Town. Quincy is surprised when he sees the ring with Lin, and tells him, this is the engagement ring I gave to my wife. And he takes the ring and remembers when he gave the ring to his wife, and tells him, sealed souls have no memory. That's why, when they're freed, they regain their memories and get rid of what they were like, and they get rid of anything dear to them. And he asks Lin and tells him, my wife wasn't suffering much while dying, right? So Lin tells him no. So Quincy looks at the ring and says this makes me happy. And Quincy cries and says I wasn't expecting that the thing I hate about soul reapers would be what helps me achieve my wish. I'll keep it. And Quincy brings a box and opens it, and tells Lin, now it's time I fulfill my promise to you. And this is the Crown of Darkness, and its effect is that after preparation, the sin value becomes invisible, and it hides the dark aura, and this makes it undetectable. So Lin thinks and says Crown of Darkness, even though it doesn't provide any additional stats, but hiding the sin value and the dark aura is what I need. And because I was able to solve the Manticore Knight's problem, I won't have to restrict my movements in the city. And a message appears asking Lin if he wants to use the Crown of Darkness. So Lin agrees to use it, and Lin uses an incantation and says, I'm now close to the truth. And Lin goes out to walk in the city, and thinks, and says there are many large and small guilds in Wind and Sand City, but these can be considered real power. Fury Guild, and Woman's Flower Water Moon Guild, and Infinite Stars Guild, Sacred Hymns Guild, and Eternal Go, and this person might be hiding among them. And I'm now just a newcomer to Wind and Sand City, that's why approaching these guilds won't be easy. I need to find an opportunity first. But suddenly, Lin feels something strange. And there's a person walking, and suddenly, there's a person putting a sword to his neck, and this person is Lin, and he puts the sword to the person's neck and tells him who are you? So this person tells him finally, and suddenly this person tells Lin, oh it's really you. Then this person falls to the ground, so Lin tells him you. So the person tells him you still remember me, so Lin tells him you still know my name. So this person tells him when I watched the Bloodstained Guild broadcast, I recognize you right away. I reviewed many comments to find something about you. Then I paid $2 million to get the latest system update to know the people in the group, to make sure it's you. So Lin tells him $2 million to look for me. So this person tells him, yeah, that's a lot. Our hand group always spends a lot of money on the system. So Lin thinks and says hand group that has a lot of money that controls the advanced technology market. And this person knows these things. What else does he know? I should finish him off here. So this person tells Lin, then join my team. There's an S-rank hunt in Molten Blood Skull Cave tomorrow. And it said that someone discovered a den, a corroded iron hyena, but this person falls to the ground. So Lin tells him go and don't follow me. So this person tells him an expert at your level, who crushed the elite team in Bloodstained Guild, so you don't need a team. But in this hunt, the third team from Black Tree Guild will come to select beginners, and if your performance is outstanding. So Lin is surprised as soon as he hears this. So this person tells him, I have no choice but to go and try my luck myself. But what's the set time? So Lin tells him when exactly will the hunt start. So this person tells him tomorrow at 8 AM. Does this mean you agree? So Lin puts his hand on his mouth and tells him you can call me Lin. And we need to prepare well before we go. And we go after that to the Eagle Bandits camp. And an explosion happens that destroys the place and we see a large number of eagles fallen on the ground. And Lin says their leader should be at the front, and Lin gives power to the eagles to make them his followers. And a message from the system appears informing Lin that the eagles are level 12, and their skill is throwing the curved sword. And the eagles get up again, and Lin tells them let's attack again. And the Eagle King is sitting on the throne, and there are many eagles in front of him. So Lin tells the eagles to attack. So Lin's eagles attack the existing eagles, and the eagles activate the sword throwing skill, and they throw the sword at Lin, but Lin manages to dodge the sword. And Lin attacks the eagles and manages to get them with him. And a message appears saying that Lin managed to kill the eagle leader, and Lin kills a large number of eagles, and Lin looks at the eagle leader but finds him disappeared. And the eagle leader suddenly appears and attacks Lin, and a message from the system appears informing Lin that the backstab skill has been activated. So Lin activates the corpse explosion art skill, and the eagles attack the leader and an explosion happens. But the eagle leader is still alive, and Lin attacks him with all his strength and activates the shadow gauntlet skill and hits the leader with a strong blow, destroying the ground with it. And a message appears informing him that he managed to kill the eagle leader. And Lin reaches level 13. And there's a skill cowl, D Shadow Curse, level 3. The effect causes damage equal to 20% of the target's health, or can restore 20% of the undead's health, and consumes 60 mana, and explosion art level 2. The effect explodes one undead causing damage to enemies. So the system tells him, do you want to use this scroll to upgrade these skills? So Lin thinks and says the efficiency isn't bad. I used the skill scroll for upgrading once before, and now I raised it to level 3. And at the same time raise the corpse explosion art. The undead army is good. And a message from the system appears informing Lin that he now has 130 undead monsters, eagle dolls, and the eagle leader is level 19, and has sword throwing and backstab skills, undead body, deadly poison hand. When Lin sees the eagle leader's skills, he thinks and says after reviving the eagle leader, I gained an additional skill. When I revived the giant wolf, it gained a new skill, Ghost Rage. This means that reviving boss level monsters adds a new skill, and a message from the system appears to Lin, telling him that the hunting campaign will start in 2 hours. So Lin goes to the person with him, and tells him let's get ready to go. Suddenly, Lin sees light, so he tells this person, what are you wearing? You're disguised as a golden knight statue. So this person tells him, I paid 50 gold coins to ask the blacksmith to make this armor. That's why I want you to be reassured. But suddenly, the belt breaks, and the pants fall. So Lin is surprised as soon as he sees this, and tells him this is the first time I see fragmented armor. So this person tells him the blacksmith said this is the latest thing. But suddenly, the helmet falls on his face. So he tells Lin, I can't see anything. And while he's walking, he trips over Lin's leg and bumps into a huge person. So he lifts the helmet and is surprised when he sees this huge person in front of him. And this person is the third team leader in Black Tree Guild, and his name is Zhao. So Zhao tells this person, are you okay? So this person thinks and says clearly, he's laughing, but I feel like I'm standing in front of a snake. So Lin pulls him and tells him, aren't you going to take off this armor you're wearing? So this person laughs and says, yeah, okay. But Zhao is annoyed and says, how does a kid like this look at me this way? But suddenly, someone comes and calls Lin and the person with him, and tells them is one of you named Han, and the person with Lin is named Han. So this person tells him you're Han, who's wearing armor, and they start making fun of Han's armor. Then Han tells them, yeah, I am. You guys are the big brothers in Black Tree Guild. So one of them tells him, while raising the sword in his face, we don't care about beginners' names, and we weren't going to let someone come with you, but because our captain is generous. So Zhao tells this person, what are you doing? We should treat them better than this. So this person tells him, I was joking, and tells Lin and Han, I don't want you to overestimate yourselves just because our captain is nice to you. So Han tells him, we'll do our part. And one from the guild says, now stand in your places. We'll start calling names. And Lin stands thinking and says, these are all the players participating in the S-rank hunting campaign. So Han says, I feel nervous. I couldn't imagine working with main guild members. And one from the guild says, I hope this sword doesn't let me down in the middle of the raid. So Lin thinks and says, they all look like beginners who just entered the main city. So Zhao tells them, we have full numbers, let's start, and walks toward the cave, and tells them, I want you to be reassured, even Soul Reapers. When they see Black Tree Guild, they change their path, and they all move to enter the cave. Then Han takes out a flag while walking, so he calls Lin and tells him, come on quickly. I heard there are monsters inside the cave. So a person walking in front says, does this person think he's on a trip? But Lin is walking and says, I can smell it. Then they enter Molten Blood Scales cave, and one of them says, we've reached the crossroads. We haven't even seen any monsters present. So another tells him the monsters here are present at night. Now, they might be gathered in the cave depths for rest. So one tells Zhao, which way should we go? So Zhao tells him it's better we separate. So they're surprised as soon as they hear they're going to separate. And Han says, isn't this going to be dangerous? And another person says, we might face a level 16 monster. So a person calms them and tells them to ensure your safety in this mission. The captain explored the path, and when we finished, we sat waiting for you. So one tells him, did the captain explore Thay's place? So Zhao tells them, yeah, I saw that the middle path has iron-eating lizards, and they're dangerous in case of surprise attacks, but the other paths are safe with nothing in them. But the more dangerous the place, the higher the discovery probability. That's why me and the guild will take the middle path, and you'll take the other paths. So he laughs and tells them, what do you think? So one from the guild tells them, in the end, guild plans are well thought out. So Han tells him, yeah, you're the guild leader and we have to listen to you. So Lin says, we'll go through the north path. So Zhao says, no problem if anyone wants to go with them. So they say that Han is a strange person and no one trusts him, and Lin looks suspicious and hides his skills. So Zhao tells Lin, looks like your popularity is weak, even though I'm the team leader, but I can't force anyone to go with you. So Lin tells Han, follow me, and Lin and Han move toward the path. So Zhao laughs and says, these two look like idiots. Lin and Han are walking together in the cave, when Han tells Lin, I feel like the temperature is dropping really fast. I have a feeling someone is watching me, and this feeling keeps getting stronger over time. Lin says, you noticed it too. There's definitely something there. Han replies, but didn't leader Zhao scout the path and say it was safe? Lin says, you trust him that much? This is an S-rank hunting expedition. Yet, they brought a bunch of beginners with them. It's obvious they want to use people as bait to explore the paths. Han asks, but why would they do that? Lin says, I'm going to find out what's happening. He takes a creature from beside him and throws it into the cave behind them, saying, I want to see how many there are. We can lure them out. Many monsters appear inside the cave. Then we see a large number of lizards attacking the guild. They use their power to deal with the lizards. One of them attacks with his sword, cutting down the lizards, and tells Zhao, with people drawing the monster's attention, things became much easier. I can't believe they actually believed we scouted the path. Zhao replies, when most of them die, there will be iron-eating lizards in the other two caves about to die. Then we'll start achieving double the results with half the effort. 3 lizards attack Zhao, but Zhao is ready for them and kills all 3. We go back to Han, who is surprised by what he's seeing. The lizards use their iron tail strike skill. Lin's eagles appear and attack the lizards. They use sword throwing skills, and the eagles use other abilities like stealth. Han says to Lin, when did you get all these monsters? This battle is more impressive than the last one. Lin replies, didn't I tell you I was going to make preparations? Han is surprised and says, you defeated these monsters in less than a day. Lin manages to finish off the lizards with his eagles. Han feels frustrated because he senses that Lin is stronger than him. Suddenly, he feels a tremor and calls out to Lin. He finds him reviving the lizards. Han thinks to himself, I need to check this out myself. I don't need to tell him everything. I should be useful to him. He came from that direction. Suddenly, Han feels something under his foot. The tremor stops, then something huge emerges and knocks Han down. He's shocked when he sees this. A huge tongue comes out, destroying the place, but Han doesn't know what this island The tongue attacks Han, knocking him to the ground. Han calls out to Lin to save him. The tongue attacks Han, wraps around him and pulls him down into the pit. But suddenly, Lin appears and strikes the tongue with his sword, cutting it. He says, "Just a monster hiding underground. How did it appear here?" He grabs Han, and they move away from the area. Han tells Lin, "This is definitely a huge monster, so before it comes out, we should move." Suddenly, the ground is destroyed. Han is shocked when he sees this. Suddenly, a huge monster appears. This is the boss, and it has many skills. Han says, "The information says the Bloody Scales Cave is a place for elite class iguanas, but this monster is boss class. I'm sorry, Lin. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have encountered this monster. You should leave." Lin says, "This monster is scary, but it's my prey." Han is surprised by his words. Lin's lizards appear. Then Lin runs with all his strength to attack the monster. The eagles appear to attack the boss. The boss uses tail sweep skill. Lin attacks with Azure Soul Seal on the boss and an explosion happens. Lin stands in front of the boss thinking it wasn't affected. The boss uses poisonous sand breath skill and attacks Lin. Han calls out to Lin to be careful. Lin dodges the boss's poison attack, and the poison destroys the ground. Lin says, "Fighting this monster is harder than I imagined." The boss attacks Lin with its tail, but Lin manages to dodge the boss's tail strike. He tells the Eagle Chief to get up. The Eagle Chief attacks the boss and strikes its body, but the boss hits it with its tail. Han says, "Are the undead that Lin summoned still his followers too?" The Eagle Chief uses backstab skill and attacks the boss's tail, but the boss uses impenetrable fortress skill. The boss strikes with its tail. Lin calls out to the Eagle Chief to be careful, but the boss hits it with a powerful blow that sends it flying. Han is surprised by the boss's quick reaction. Lin is amazed by the boss's strength and thinks about all the attacks he managed to dodge and how he struck the Eagle Chief. He thinks lizards are creatures with simple eye structure and rely mainly on light changes to perceive their surroundings. That's why, when an enemy stops moving, it becomes hard for them to distinguish it. Their motion vision is good, and their hearing and smell can detect any movement the enemy makes. Some types of lizards have infrared sensing organs that they use to detect enemies' body heat. That's why lizards' sensitivity to enemy movement is high. To deal with the boss, we need to make it trap itself. Lin attacks it with all his strength, but the lizard isn't affected by the attack. Lin thinks, "I'll make the monster focus only on me." Lin runs away, and the boss chases after him. Han calls out to Lin, saying, "You're in trouble now. The boss's defense is strong, and your attack won't affect it." He says Lin is running toward, and finds there are many lizards. Lin approaches the lizards to be able to defeat the monster. The lizards attack the boss. Lin manages to get away, but the boss attacks the lizards with all its strength. Lin tells it, "You idiot, don't you know when to stop?" Lin uses explosion skill, and a big explosion hits the boss. Lin says, "The shield has been breached." The boss attacks Lin. Lin attacks it and tells the Eagle Chief to attack from the other side. Lin thinks, this lizard has another weakness. The boss can't focus on attacks from both sides. The boss approaches the Eagle Chief. Lin uses his strength and attacks the boss. He strikes the boss with a powerful blow and manages to finish it off. A system message appears, saying Lin has reached level 14, and health points are restored by 85%. A system message appears informing him that Dark Curse is at level 3. Lin says, "If I use the skill scroll again, it will rise directly to level 4. Although the corpse explosion art consumed many undead, this creature is worth all this trouble." A system message appears telling Lin that the boss has become undead. Lin says, "From now on, you'll be my shield." Han is surprised when he sees the loot. Lin tells him, "Why are you in a hurry? There are still ovens that haven't died. There are many dead lizards that were killed by Zhao." One guild member tells him, "All of this we're in is because of your orders. With your presence, even if a Lord-class monster comes, you'll be able to defeat it." Another person says, "The previous disturbances, surely, the fighting on both sides has ended. If we go now, we'll take the loot." Zhao kicks the lizard with his foot and takes them as they're walking. But suddenly, an explosion happens and stones fly at them. Zhao gets angry and says, "How dare you ambush the Black Tree Guild?